Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room, my live stream. My name is Stephen, and today we are with Hassan, Tom, and Menti. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Apologies, Paul. Yes, I realize we're late. It's 3 minutes late, but you are a stickler for time as always. I forgot to do the tweet, which has just been released now, so that's why we're late. So you can blame me and get mad at me. But today we have a good bit of news, lots of transfer news, thankfully. Some updates on the likes of Mbappe. We also have Bradley with a new contract, and we're also going to be discussing the new and improved Virgil van Dijk in Jarrell Quansah. And also we'll have a little bit of a Q&A at the end. If anybody wants to fire their questions in, please feel free, and we'll try and get to them at the end. I'll save them and I'll try and get to them at the end then. But without further ado, we will get on to our news for the week. And it appears as Liverpool are on their quest for a six. And anybody that gets that joke, for any NFL fans that are out there, and the quest for six, for any teams trying to win 6 championships, you'll get the joke. But Liverpool seem to be eyeing up their next 6 with the likes of a Jarrell Neves and a Kephren Thuram linked with ourselves. Now, obviously, we have the likes of Daniel Malen and we have the likes of Florian Wirtz, who are more attacking players, but nonetheless, they are linked with us too very heavily. Now, with, TMY, you're not the only one. Jesus, 3 minutes in late and he's already on my back. I'd be out the door in 6 months. But thankfully, we have some good transfer news with the likes of Kephren Thuram, who can play 6, but he also plays in the midfield, and he also plays out on the left-hand side. We then have my personal favourite, myself, who plays alongside Paul. We won't get into that right now, and I'll keep my mouth shut until Monday. But we also then have Jarrell Neves, who plays alongside my other favourite CDM option, which will be Florentino Luis with Benfica. Both of their CDMs will be absolutely fantastic additions to Liverpool's squad. Jarrell Neves being possibly one of the most sought-after midfielders in the European transfer market this year. We then also have Daniel Malen, who's a forward that can play across all 3 positions, and we have then Florian Wirtz, who plays as an attacking midfielder and can play left and right wing, very much a 10 role. So I'll just start on the first player really, and Daniel Malen, and we'll work our way through them. Hassan, do you rate him at all? Do you think he'd fit in well with Liverpool? Do you think we could do better than him at the moment? Currently, as it is, he's 12 appearances, 4 goals, 0 assists. What do you think yourself, Hassan? Do you think Daniel Malen's a good addition to Liverpool? Would he be even worth our time considering it, or are you sold on other prospects? You're muted, Hassan. I don't know if we can't hear you, man. You're muted. Hold on, I'll remove you from the stream and add you back, and maybe that might work. Hold on. No, we still can't hear you, man. I'm not sure what's happened. Do you want to leave and come back, and we'll see if it can work that way? Cool. I'll just change the brand here. Hold on 2 seconds, and we'll let him back in now in 2 seconds. But, right, I'll throw it over to yourself, Tom. Daniel Malen, yes, no, maybe is he even worth considering with the quality of a player that he is, or do you think we can do better with other options?
Yeah, not for me. He's got the raw ability, he's got the pace, hasn't he? He gets in behind, he's quite a hard worker, I believe, as well. So he probably would fit a Klopp sort of system quite well, but I just don't think he's the quality of player that we should be looking for. I think he's obviously not really exactly tearing it up in the Bundesliga, is he? So for me, it's a pass. But I do think he's a good player. But for what we're trying to do, we're trying to win leagues. We're trying to, get back into the Champions League. So for me, not quite the quality that we really need.
Yeah, he'd be. Do you know who he'd replace for me? He'd replace a Diogo Jota. That's the kind of, and that's not a slight on Jota at all. It's more just I think he'd fit into that role of coming on as a substitute and filling in anywhere around the front 3. Damon sounded like the Etihad there. But look, sure, Pep is begging fans to go to the Etihad. It's awful funny how a treble-winning team has to beg their fans to fill their stadium, clearly trying to fill the coffers before they go for trial next year in September. Jesus, Jen, thank you so much for the 1999. Jesus, clearly somebody got paid today, and you're trying to fund the transfer window to get us Kylian Mbappe. thank you so much. That is very, very much appreciated. We always do appreciate any amount at all, but that's an extortionate amount. Thank you so much. It all goes back into the channel. It all goes to helping everybody make content for you guys. And don't worry, he'll be back next week. You won't miss him. We'll make sure to hype it up before he does return again. We'll get your favorite man back on stream again. But thank you so much for your 1999. That is absolutely over the moon and more than we would ever expect. So thank you so much for that, Jen. Menti, Paul here mentions that Malen doesn't necessarily make sense. He's a decent right-footed winger, but we have other priorities. Would you be in much of an agreement to that, Menti? Do you think Malen should be a priority? Or given the current squad that we have now, we have holes elsewhere and we need to fill those holes prior to looking at maybe some depth players that, to be honest, I think Malen would be a depth player. I don't think he'd even start for us.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Paul and Tom. I don't think he's someone that we should focus on right now. As you said, we need someone in the defense as well as a 6. So for me, he's a good player. I think the only reason he's linked to us because he's a Dutch player. So every single Dutch player is going to be linked with us just because of our coach. But I don't think he's someone we need right now.
Yeah, it's as El Hero mentions, new left back, new CB, new centre back, and new defensive mid. Paul mentions Bakayoko will be a better option and cheaper. And Jen mentions the 1980 use it to fund the Christmas party. We will indeed. Thank you so much. It's very much appreciated as always, as you always are. Thank you so much. Hassan, apologies, we lost you for a little bit there. I'll repeat the question again of Daniel Malen. Do you feel like he's a Liverpool player that we should pursue, or is he a player that very much would be depth and we have other holes to fill currently at the moment? I don't know what it is, Hassan. We still can't hear you. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what it is, man. It could be an internet connection. Have you a mic in or something, or because you were perfect before the stream and then all of a sudden your camera kind of froze and then no, nothing, man. It's just pure silence, I'm afraid. Tom, Menti, can you hear him at all?
No. Try to get headphones and plug it in and out my computer.
Yeah, could you have headphones around it then, Hassan, and try and plug them in? Cool. No problem. I'll come back to you on that question anyway if you want to hang around there. So don't worry. Try sign language. I did. Oh God, maybe he might be back now after this. He's just floating about there at the minute. I'm going to just pull him out of the stream and then I'll pull him back into it now in 2 seconds. Apologies, guys, about the technical delays. You know, it's a Friday and nothing seems to want to work for us, unfortunately. However, I'll move on to a couple of other options then, like Florian Wirtz that plays for Leverkusen at the moment. Tom, I'll start with yourself again. Like, would he even be a consideration there? Like, as it stands at the moment, he's only played in 4 games, but he's 2 assists and two goals and 4 assists. So clearly the production is there.
Yeah, he's got a great amount of talent, hasn't he? He's been one of the best sort of up-and-coming players in the Bundesliga in recent years. And obviously the German connection, it's always going to be a link with us, isn't there? But for me, I don't think that sort of position is a priority. I think we got a lot of sort of attacking-minded midfielders now, haven't we? So for me, although he's a great prospect that I'd always welcome great young players to the club to build for the future, obviously. For me, I don't think it's a priority, and I think he'd be costing up north of 70 million, probably, wouldn't he? So for me, we need to be spending that on a 6 or a centre back. So yeah, great talent, but not a priority for me.
He almost sort of fits the Szoboszlai and MacAllister role at the moment, Menti. Like, we've already seemed to have addressed that one where we have a midfielder that's very forward and attacking base. It seems we have 3 of them in their box-to-box nature, similarly with MacAllister, Szoboszlai and Gravenberch. So this seems like a bit of a non-story for me that we seem to have already filled that hole. I don't see us necessarily going anywhere near Florian Wirtz, especially with Tom's point of how much he's going to actually cost us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. He's a great player. He's going to have a great future ahead of him. Just the only issue with me is he is injury prone. He's very young. So I think he's probably going to end up at Bayern Munich. I just don't see him coming to us just because we do have players in there already. I'd rather have like players like Elliott and those younger guys, just getting the team over time rather than just bringing in a super expensive person at that age. But yeah, I just don't see him suiting us at the moment. We have like other spots we got to fill out first.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with both of you. To be honest with you, the way I see it playing out is I see Musiala going to a Real Madrid or a Barcelona, and then I see Wirtz going then to Bayern Munich as a replacement for that. That's kind of that's usually how it happens. And to be perfectly honest with you, it really wouldn't shock me if that's what happened. But that's more or less what I think on that. It's just, as Paul mentions, he's a 10. We don't necessarily play with a 10. It's just not for us. Jen mentions here we should have another go at Kudo and Thuram. Thuram is actually the next one I was going to be talking about, Jen. So it should be that'll be something interesting for you to listen to. And Zia mentions here, I don't want a pure destroyer. Such a player will ruin what we've done so far, which are bowlers across the middle. I want a talented 6. See, that's a tough one, actually. I'll throw that question to yourself and Tom Menti. I'll throw it to you first. Would you rather a destroyer of a 6, or would you rather somebody that's more of a technical 6, similarly to the likes of a Thiago and Andre, or a similar profile to the likes of a MacAllister who's very good on the ball? Or would you want somebody more in the realm of a Fabinho who just gets a foot in, and an Endo that gets a foot in and just receives a ball and distributes to the midfield? Who would be more of your preference in this team?
For me, I personally would like to have a destroyer just because it will allow, players like MacAllister and Szoboszlai to just, go there, do their thing up front. But from what we're seeing this season, I personally think we're going to go for a player like Thuram just because they want someone that's more technical and more progressive. So if you did play Trent inverted, Thuram would just fit in perfectly with that. I do want a destroyer, but I think we're going to end up with a technical 6.
But what's good about it though, Tom, is you can train somebody to be a destroyer, and you can build them physically into that. It's very hard to train somebody, especially in their 20s, to be technically sound because habits and bad habits would already have been instilled in them. So having somebody that is technical, you can then build them into a destroyer rather than a destroyer being built into a technical player. Which of the two would you prefer having?
I do agree with Menti. To be fair, I think I probably would rather a destroyer, but I think the way we're going, I think we will opt for that sort of technically good player. I think we've kind of trialed that with MacAllister, and it's obviously worked quite well, even though I don't think he's been brilliant himself like that. The qualities that he has in that position have kind of helped the team. So yeah, I agree. I think we will look for that sort of technically good player, but I think for me, I still would like Jarrell Quansah out of anyone. I don't see like in terms of the like technically good 6s. I don't really see them about really. I can't think of too many good options in terms of who excel in that department. So I think that's what we'll go for. But I would like to see a destroyer like Paulinho, someone like that.
Yeah, to be honest, Paulinho's age is what puts me off him myself. Yeah. I'd rather go for his profile, but younger, if that makes sense. That'd be the kind of guy I go for. Hassan, I think I can hear you now. I hear a little bit of interference coming through, so hopefully I can hear you. The question I gave you the first time around, we'll circle back to yourself in relation to Daniel Malen. You couldn't really get your opinion in on him. We've moved on a little bit to Wirtz and possibly we'll be moving on to Thuram in a second, but we'll get your opinions on the first 2 players. Daniel Malen, the lads have given their opinions on it, that they feel he'd be like Jota and that he wouldn't really fit in with us at the moment. He can play across the front 3, but given his quality at the moment, they don't think he'd be starting for them, and I kind of tend to agree. Would you be in agreement with them as well, that you don't think Donny, like we have more holes elsewhere that we need to fix before we go near him?
Yes, exactly. We need other positions which are to be looked at, especially the number 6. And for Malen, he struggled a bit at Dortmund as well. Now he's back, but still not the best out there. And I think for me, the only thing, if Jota moves on, then maybe his place will be in the team, or else I don't think we should be looking at him. This rumor is, I don't think, is really coming to fruition. And for Wirtz, I don't know how much we want him, but he's a special player. Uh, I really, really like him, especially his celebration. If you guys have seen it,
Yeah, Tom mentioned that possibly he's a 10 and he wouldn't necessarily fit in, and a lot of people in the chat have agreed that we wouldn't necessarily fit in with us. He's a 10 and he's fantastic with his assisting and his ball movement and the link up play of the front three. If we were to play in a 4-2-3-1, I think he'd be fantastic in the middle there. But unfortunately, we don't play in that. Do you see a place for him in the squad? Because we seem to have addressed the attacking midfield portion with the likes of a MacAllister and Szoboszlai, albeit MacAllister playing out of position at the moment. But do you feel like he would have a place in the team, or is this a situation where, similarly to Daniel Malen, he wouldn't necessarily have a place in the team right now, but maybe back in summer, if we bought him before the other players, he might have been?
yeah, exactly. Maybe the African Cup of Nations, and we fighting for all fronts. Exactly, but we don't necessarily. He's the main position we need to look at, but maybe we want to serenade Alonso.
Yeah, that's out of everybody, I just rather Alonso. Just bring back Alonso and let him play in midfield. I think he'd absolutely do numbers still. He still looks fit enough. He can still clearly ping a pass, so I have no problem with that whatsoever. The other player then now we'll move on to is Kephren Thuram, who we've been linked with again. And before we move on to him, I just want to say thank you so much, Jen. Member for 15 months. It's time flies when you're having fun. Thank you so much for being a member for 15 months and your 1999 earlier as well. It's very, very much appreciated. And I'll make sure to circle back to both of these later on before we finish up too. Before I move on to Kephren Thuram, though, I do want to ask everybody to make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure all of your notifications are on for all future videos and streams so that you never miss out on any LFC Transfer Room content. And let's try and hit that 10K mark, hopefully, before the next transfer window opens in about a month's time. But yeah, it's a month's time. It's 31 days away. Midnight on New Year's Eve, we will be back in silly season. So get ready for lots of tweets and lots of stories coming out over the next month because silly season has started. So I can't wait for it. It's going to be a busy time for us. We will also have our predicted 11 for the Premier League clash against Fulham out tomorrow at 12 p.m. So make sure that you have your notifications on for that so you don't miss that. Lou, who's a host here as well, will be predicting that 11. So hopefully all goes well with that. But we will move back on to Kephren Thuram. 11 appearances, no goals, no assists. He seems to fit the physical profile. He's very much a box-to-box, similarly to Gravenberch. I think because we've signed Gravenberch, we've moved on from that particular profile. Paul seems to be in an agreement with me. He'd just be competing with Jones, Gravenberch, Elliott, and Bajcetic. I completely agree with you, Paul. I think the time to sign him would have been last summer, but we ended up signing Gravenberch, which we've moved on. So it's. I think I'm very much in opinion with Vase of Flowers here. I think Douglas Luiz would be a very good with Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, and Maka would be a fantastic midfield. But Kephren Thuram, very much heavily linked with him during the summer. Tom, I'll start with yourself this time. Yes, no, maybe. Would you see a place for him in the squad at the moment, or was the summertime prior to Gravenberch when we should have got him?
Yeah, I wouldn't be going there. To be honest, I think he is that box-to-box sort of player, isn't he? We've got a lot of sort of number 8s now, so for me, that definitely wouldn't be someone I'd be looking at. I think we need to look at a proper number 6 if we're gonna, because I imagine if we were gonna get him, we might play him at number 6, but I think that'd be a waste of time. I think we've got MacAllister who's sort of doing that square pegging around hole sort of job at the moment. So I think if we're gonna get another midfielder, we should just get a proper 6. So yeah, for me, I don't think he's quite the quality we need in the first place, and I don't think he's the position that we particularly need anyway. So yeah, I'd probably avoid that one, I think.
Yeah, I think that moment has passed. Hassan, are you of a similar opinion? Was fine last summer. Moment has passed now.
Yeah, exactly. He was the first 2 we were linked with, Kone and him. But due to some facts, those deals didn't materialize. So we moved on, and Gravenberch came along, and he's looking really, really good. And as Tom said, uh, we need to sign a number 6, and when we sign number 6, McAllister will be free, and Alexander Arnold is coming in the midfield more often. So I think maybe we'll sign a right back and a number 6, which should be a priority for us.
Yeah, they're my main priorities. Left-sided centre back, right back, and a centre defensive midfielder should be the priorities going forward. Right winger should then be like a tier below that in priority, purely because the threat of Salah leaving is always going to be there for the next 12 months. So realistically, we need to be ready to address that. Doak is fine, but he's a kid. You'd need somebody in the 22, 23, 24-year-old range to come in there and play ahead of him while he develops into a 22, 23, 24-year-old. It'll take a couple of years, unfortunately. But Menti, I'll throw the same question to yourself. Time has passed on Thuram. Do you think he could play a 6 if he came in? Or would it be just the same as just plug and playing McAllister in there as it is at the moment?
For me, I'm just a little bit different from you guys. I personally think Thuram is a good player, just based on who he is and who his father is and who his brother is. Just basically heritage of football. You see he's been getting called up a little bit to the France national team as well. And in the last 2 games for Nice, he's actually started at DM. It was 1 draw and 1 win. But like he plays left, right, and he could play down the middle in a 4-3-3. So they've been tied to him a lot. So I could see if Klopp has a vision, I could see them going for it, as well as the price tag, which is the FSG range, which is about 34 million pounds. But yeah, I don't think they might get a 6. I think they might go for a defender first, and then maybe someone like Thuram. But yeah, if we wanted to go for someone like Douglas Luiz, that's too much. Neves, hopefully we could get him, but if he doesn't sign one, we could get him. But I don't see them going for a lot of people that we want as fans.
Yeah. I see, as David Ornstein has mentioned, we work an awful lot in the shadows, so to speak. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of our work in the back room. We're not a very public club in how we act. We're not a very public club in who we contact. It's all very hush-hush and all very private. While that can be infuriating in some ways, I think that's the best way to do business. You are quiet, you are cutthroat, you are ruthless, and us at the end of the day are just talking heads, spouting nonsense, guesswork. But we do always love a bit of drama as well at the same time. Similarly to how the Caicedo stuff played out, while we were all a little bit heartbroken about it, I think we've actually come out the better of this and left Chelsea in such a hole that I don't think they're ever to recover. Similarly to United with Mason Mount, considering they're already planning on moving on from him, which is absolutely hilarious.
Crazy.
And Amrabat as well, paying 10 million to loan him and then being like, nah, we're done with him. Good luck. He's not hanging around. And like, you knew he was injured. He was a World Cup wonder. Anybody with 2 sets of eyes in their head could have told you he was useless. And then Onana as well. Like, we like to give out about FSG. And I know Damo was in the chat earlier and he mentions about FSG being this and FSG being that. But at least, we're not United. That's the way I look at it. Imagine getting rid of Alisson and then signing Nick Pope or signing De Gea, which is essentially what they've done. They got rid of their shot stopper for somebody who can play with the ball at their feet but can't stop a shot. And it's funny because Erik ten Hag actually did mention some true facts. In the Premier League, Onana is one of the best goalkeepers, but outside of the Premier League, he's the worst keeper in the world. Which is hilarious considering the oxymoron that would present to somebody. But I've never rated him as a goalkeeper, and the fact that anyone in the scouting department at Man United watched his tape and then said, yes, we're going to fork out nearly £50 million for this player, while we have a first team keeper in the squad at the moment. And that game against Galatasaray showed exactly why you shouldn't have signed him. But I digress. We're not a United talking head. We're a Liverpool talking head. But it's fun to make fun of the neighbours. The final player that I want to get onto before we move on to our next topic is one of my personal favourites myself, alongside his compatriot Florentino Luis. Florentino Luis and João Neves are possibly 2 of the single best CDM factors going into this January transfer window and the summer transfer window next year. Currently, as it stands, Benfica have a release clause of €120 million on Florentino Luis, and they have no release clause on João Neves yet. However, they're working to try and secure a deal to put €150 million release clause on him at that point, which hopefully we were able to swoop in and get him because João Neves, surprisingly, is only on £540,000 a year, which is hilarious considering his quality. I'll throw the two of them over to you as both of Benfica's CDMs, Menti. Which one would you prefer, and do you rate one over the other, or do you like them both? Or give me a couple of your thoughts on both of them and who you prefer to see in a Liverpool shirt, either in January or next summer.
Obviously, as a Liverpool fan, I'll take either one. But if I had to choose, it would have to be just because it's João Neves. Way younger. He's super technical. He reminds me a little bit of Thiago a little bit. I'm not saying he's Thiago, but he has traits of him. Just because he's 19, he's already playing with the Portuguese national team. And he's already starting in Champions League, as well as he's starting for Benfica. So for me, it would be João Neves for sure. But Luis, I'll take him any day. Depending on who FSG want to get, please. We'll take any one of those two.
Jen makes a good point here in the goalkeeper argument as well. Thank God we kept Kelleher. Imagine having to start Adrian for the next couple of games. Oh, I think I'd rather just not watch, to be honest with you. Hassan, same question to yourself that I've given to Menti. Florentino Luis and João Neves. Two very, very hot prospects. I myself scouted Florentino Luis in the summer. I comped him very much to a prime Fabinho. He is that good on his day. He's had a little bit of a slow start to this season. However, I still think that the quality is there. João Neves, very similar again, as Menti mentioned, to a Thiago, can grow into that. You could also argue he's similar to Andre too. So but I think obviously João Neves is a much higher ceiling. Is there a particular preference that you would have, or are you happy with either? I personally would like João Neves, but I obviously wouldn't be upset with Florentino Luis either.
Same as you, I'll be happy with both, but as for me, Neves as well, because of his age factor, and we can both can help Besic as well. So for that, I think he'll be really good for us, a young and upcoming player who is already full international, and his profile, his physical attributes looks like a really, really good prospect. And for me, the deal for him will be more likely because we tend to find players which we can sign, which have some contract issues we can maneuver. Uh, Luis is more established, and he has, as you said, a clause as well. So if we can get Neves before signing extension to his contract, maybe that will work for us.
Paul mentions here about Florentino Luis's release contract. It's at €120 million, Paul. But during the summer, it was noted that Benfica were happy to let him go for about half of that, €60 million. They were very happy to let him go for half of that at the time. Now, their stance may have changed on that at this point with the interest in João Neves, but that was the news at the time. If any more updates come in on it, obviously we let everybody know. But they were happy to let him go for less than that. I know the release clauses are absolutely nuts, and to be honest, you're not getting him for anywhere near 30 million. You'd be paying, he's mid-20s. You'd be paying for at least 60-70 million euro at minimum for a player like Florentino Luis. Hassan mentions a good point with Bajcetic though, Tom. Bajcetic being the age that he is, would you think the likes of a João Neves would take minutes from him, or do you think he'd help him develop as well, and the two of them develop together? Because I think somebody a little bit older, a couple of years older, more advanced, like a Florentino Luis, who's coming up to be about 24 now, by the time Bajcetic is probably fully grown and able to come into the starting 11 full time, Florentino Luis will be in his prime, and you could sell him on and then let Bajcetic develop up and make a great sell on that way, whereas João Neves would be competing with him for minutes at the same age. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, to be fair. I think we're all kind of forgetting about Bajcetic, aren't we? Like, when he played last year, he was our best player. When he came in, there's like no doubt about it. He was just so far above the rest of the team, which is incredible. And I do think he kind of has both of the sort of destroyer and technical qualities about him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like, you saw him putting like thundering challenges in last year, but you could also see that he can really play as well. So it is just such a massive shame that he's been out injured for so long. Because I do honestly believe he is the answer. Like, sometimes when you watch young players, you just know, don't you? I think Bajcetic is one of them. You just know, like, he's made to play for a club like Liverpool. So for me, I'm not really too big on Jarrell Neves or Luis, because I think Benfica always charge so much, don't they? Like, you're going to be paying ridiculous money for whoever it is. So for me, I think I'd rather, unless it's going to be like a proven world-class DM, I'd rather just start there for now, or wait till Bajcetic gets back, and hopefully he can get back to that level, and he can be that ideal 6 that we need, and that's all the qualities that we all want.
Yeah, I see. I'm conflicted on that, because your shout on Paulinho would be absolutely perfect, because he could come in, he's established, he's a DM, he's old enough to be able to play there, because we do often forget about Stefan Bajcetic just because of the fact he hasn't played and he's been injured. But a guy like Paulinho could come in, play 3 or 4 years, we'd sell him on at the age of 30, 31. Bajcetic would be 24 at that point, thereabouts. He would be ready to hit his physical prime and would just be very easily able to take the keys and run. So we need to be, and as Liverpool have come out and mentioned, they will not sign a midfielder that will hamper Bajcetic's development. And I think that gave the indication that Klopp is like, he's our 6 of the future. So we're not going to sign somebody that's young and up and coming that is going to hamper and take minutes away from him. So it's one of them where I feel probably we're not going to get the player we think we're going to get. We're probably going to get somebody that is a little bit older, more established, maybe more specialized in a particular area. Not that that's a bad thing. We could use that, which would allow MacAllister to move further up the pitch, which, again, I think is only a positive at that point. But before we move on to, I just want to see there's a couple of comments here. We've all agreed, Bojack, that we think Daniel Malen would only fill in if Jota was to go. We're not really in an opinion there that we'd be interested in him. Klopp loves him. I trust Klopp's opinion on players. I'm not saying that he's not a bad player, but I just don't see where he fits in. And Tom, Menti, and Hassan have mentioned the same thing. Paul then goes on to say, look at our squad. We are not short in midfield as we're making out. We lost 4 deadwood and replaced them with 4 quality players. Very right, Paul. I think it's more people seem to forget about Bajcetic, and we need a stopgap player, essentially. We can't just throw Bajcetic back into it. We would need somebody that could come in and fill a stopgap for 2 or 3 years, allow Bajcetic to grow and develop into his body, and then move on from there. Like it's not so much the midfield issue, it's the 6 issue, and it's purely just that we have the midfield players to go forward. We now need somebody as that stopgap there. And while Endo is great and well, I think he's more so your Cup and Europa League guy. I don't think he's going to be major. Literally, just as I'm getting onto it, I don't think he's going to be majorly there. I think he'll be our Cup and Europa League guy who'll just come in and help and rotate and allow rest while we wait for the likes of Bajcetic to eventually develop into his body. But before we get into the next topic, I do want to ask everybody, please do make sure to like and subscribe. Help us hit that 10k mark. We're very, very close as it is at the moment. We would very much be very happy hitting the transfer window with 10k subscribers. We're nearly there. I think we only need less than 200 more guys, maybe 150. And make sure to have your bell notification content. We have a predicted 11 for our Fulham game on Sunday coming out tomorrow at midday. And then we also have our post-game stream following the game on Sunday at 4 p.m. And we have our streams tomorrow and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. each night. So make sure that you're in for that. But yeah, we'll move on. As mentioned, Paul Lindo mentions here of Bradley, who has just signed a new long-term contract with Liverpool. Menti, I'll throw it to you first. Conor Bradley, are you happy with his new deal? Are you happy with how the young player has developed? Are you surprised that we've offered him a new deal, or are you excited for what the future may hold for this young man?
I mean, I guess you could say I'm excited just because I do want to see how he ends up at the end, because whenever you see him play, you could see there's like potential there. And I say if he's going to train and if he can show the coach that he deserves a shot, why not give him one? Hopefully the next Euro games we'll see a lot of the younger people play. That's when you get that moment, you really got to show Klopp why I need to be part of this team. You just got to capture those moments. And honestly, whatever competition they bring, if he's good, the better for us, just because the midfield intensity needs to like just be on point. So for sure, I think he deserves a shot. But at the end of the day, that's all up to himself. So I think it's a good contract for the long run.
Yeah. Tom Menti mentions there that if he's good, the iron sharpens iron trope, so to speak, that too many chefs doesn't spoil the broth, that you're playing against the best. It's going to drive you to be better, and it will always be a hungry midfield. Knowing your place is never secure, and you can always be switched out. As we've seen with the Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, every single one of them can be rotated. You can throw in Jones and Elliott in there too. Are you happy with Conor Bradley's new signature on his long-term contract? Give me a couple of your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think I've been really impressed with him, to be fair. I think he looks very good on the ball. Looks like he can get up and down. So it looks like he's got a lot of the qualities that we were sort of need from a fullback. I think he just needs that physical development, doesn't he? Still a very young lad. Still needs to sort of grow into his own sort of thing. So yeah, I'm really happy to see it. I think he did well last year on loan, from what I've heard at Bolton, wasn't it? I think. So from the sounds of it, he's looking like a really good prospect. And like I said, I've been really impressed with him whenever I've watched him. Looks like he's got a lot of the desired qualities from a Liverpool fullback. So yeah, I'm really happy to see him extend.
Yeah, as am I. I think it's fantastic. Hassan, Paul asked the question here: do you see his future as a right back or a midfield? Do you see him as Trent's direct replacement, or do you see him as more of a defensive hold-up to allow Trent to move into midfield?
I think he's a natural right back. He reminds me of young Andy Robertson. He's all action, going to the attack and going back to defense as well. And I think no one mentioned he was the Bolton player of the season there at such a young age, and he was developing really good. He scored goals, and he really likes to cut inside and provide assists as well. So I'm really happy to see such a young player coming into our team. So, and he deserves a chance. We signed Ramsey, but he's been really unlucky with injuries. Now he's back at Preston. So we must look at him. The cup games now, Carling Cup will be coming back, and FA Cup. So we'll see a lot of him. And we have qualified in Europa as well. So at the last game, we'll field a good team, a young team, many players who want to prove themselves. So these are good times. Really good players coming up and showing themselves. This is the a season after a long time where really young talents we will see. I know we'll talk about him, Quansah, the one I am really looking forward to.
Yeah, he's one that I'm looking forward to as well. I think he has quite literally saved Liverpool £80 million in relation to trying to purchase a new centre back. He has saved Liverpool so much money, which will allow us to pursue other aspects. It is fantastic. So that is somebody we'll touch on in a little moment as well. Something that you mentioned in watching all these young players come out, and the fact that we have qualified for the last 16 of the Europa League, which means we will not be playing any more Europa League football following our next game in 2 weeks against USG until March, which is amazing, considering now we can then focus on the Premier League, we can focus on the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup ties, which again, as you mentioned, Hassan, will allow the younger players to play, which is why I think, and I have thought since the start of the season, that we needed Europa League this year. If we were in Champions League, the likes of Quansah, the likes of Bradley, the likes of Chambers, none of these guys would have possibly been given as much of an opportunity as they have been, which benefits everybody. So with us being in this competition, while we might have viewed last year as a bit of a failure, I actually view it as possibly our best outcome. United did us a favour, not beating us to the Champions League spot, because I feel we would have been in the same position as them if we were in the Champions League this year. I don't think we were ready for it. However, I do think this was our reload year, allowing us to develop those young talent and find those gems like Quansah, like Bradley, like Chambers, and everything. It is just an absolutely fantastic season for young talent and anybody who's enjoying the young talent coming through. And Paul mentions here, there's something I was going to mention as well. I'd love to see the Brazilian goalkeeper Pitaluga in goal for the last European game. I do not want to see anybody from our starting 11 in that squad. Maybe one or two from the subs, but I want to see every single player in that squad as a fringe or youth player. As many as we can pump into that last game, because that's exactly what we need. I don't care how the result goes. I want them just to get minutes, because it doesn't matter how the result goes. El Hierro, I don't think we are ready for Champions League. I think we'd hit the round of 16 at most as a second place team, and we'd get bounced. To be perfectly honest with you, I think this is a perfect reload year to allow us to go for absolutely everything next year. So it is something that we do have to look forward to. But we will move on to the next topic on this. But before we do, I do want to ask everybody, please do like and subscribe. I know I keep repeating it, but it really does help us. Help us hit that 10K mark, hopefully before the next transfer window. And make sure that you have your bell notification on for all of our future streams and videos so that you never miss out on any LFC transfer room content. We will have our predicted 11 out tomorrow at 12 p.m. UK time. So make sure you're around for that. We'll have our streams and our post-game stream on Sunday as well. Quansah, as you mentioned, Hassan, Paul put in the chat here and he wants the question asked, who's been the biggest surprise so far this season? Gravenberch's quality or Quansah? Because realistically, we all watched Gravenberch at Bayern Munich and we all thought, which Gravenberch are we going to get? Are we going to get Bayern Munich Gravenberch, or are we going to get Ajax Gravenberch? Hassan, I'll throw the question to you since you brought up Quansah first. Are you more impressed with Gravenberch and how he's hit the ground running this season, or how Quansah has quite literally become a Virgil van Dijk regen?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah. For me, Quansah, because Gravenberch, we all knew his potential. The world knew his potential at Ajax. He was coming up through the ranks, and he was playing one step ahead, and he was almost the best player at the Ajax. So we all knew that he will be the big star in the coming years. For Quansah, he was loaned at Bristol, I think, before coming here. So he had rave reviews from Barton. So and he came here, but by just looking at him, his physical attributes were already there. He was playing at England under teams, and he was playing really well. I think he's captain as well. So, but he has really impressed me. But the point I would like to make is that we should be really careful with these young players and protect them and play them step by step. And last season, we had to push Bajcetic, and now he has stress fractures and all. So, if you see every young player, they have to come back and develop. If you saw what happened at Barca, they pushed Pedri so much that now his body is now he's again. Yes, almost. So we should be really, really careful with young players. And I think, as we all know, that Klopp is the best to develop these players. I'm watching Liverpool for almost all my life. I've never been impressed with a young centre back coming through our ranks like Quansah. We always have bought them. So I'm really excited to see him coming to the team.
I am too, and something that Paul mentions here, and I understand what you mean with the Barcelona players and the likes of Stefan Bajcetic, but I think his frame is already built for the Premier League. He's already the same size, not the same size as Virgil. Virgil has a little bit more weight on him, but he's the same size as Matip, nearly, just a little bit shorter. So he's quite a long and rangy player. He's quite lean, so putting on an extra few pounds of muscle wouldn't help him either. Tom, Gravenberch or Quansah, who's impressed you more since they've arrived? Like, has it been the emergence of Quansah as a possible Virgil van Dijk replacement or even a Joel Matip replacement, or has it been how Gravenberch has quite literally regained his form from Ajax?
Yeah, I think I'll have to go Quansah as well. I think I agree that obviously Jurgen Klopp is one of the best managers in the world in terms of developing players. So we all saw the quality that Gravenberch had at Ajax. So I always sort of believe that Klopp would have no problem in sort of getting that back into his game, which he has. He's looked absolutely exceptional. But I think Quansah, like for his age, like for his lack of experience, he's just looked incredible, hasn't he? He's got everything. Like he's got everything already. Like kind of like Bajcetic in a way. Like when you watch him, you just know, don't you? Sometimes with certain players, and I think Quansah's one of them. He's great on, so composed on the ball, which is what I love about him. He never panics. So good in possession. Never really see him get dribbled past. So yeah, I think he's got the height. He's got the aerial dominance. He's just, like I said, so composed, which I think is his best asset. So yeah, I've been impressed with them both very much. But I think in terms of the biggest surprise, because we already knew what Gravenberch could do.
Yeah,
I think I'll have to go with Quansah. Yeah.
Yeah, Menti, as Tom mentions, like we knew what Gravenberch could be, but we had no idea Quansah could hit the ground running like he has. And I'm not sure if you were watching the game against LASK, but Joe Gomez lost the ball and Curtis Jones got dribbled past, and as Quansah was tracking back, he quite literally morphed into the same stance that Virgil van Dijk takes, tracked back all the way, watched the player's hips and the ball, didn't watch the player's eyes at all, just watched the hips and the ball. And then as the last pass was made and then a touch was taken, slides in for the tackle and blocks it, and Kelleher just cleans it up. And that was in a 2-on-1 situation against him. For a 20-year-old player to have that level of composure, regardless of the level of play he's at, we're not doubting LASK at all, because LASK could have had 2 or 3 against us in the Europa League. They were just lucky unlucky, should I say, or we were lucky rather, to have them not score. There was a couple of balls played across the box that could have very easily been tapped in. Between himself and Kelleher, that game was fantastic. But I'll throw the same question to you. We knew what Gravenberch could have been. We knew what his ceiling was, or what his expectation, or what his floor was, but we had no idea about Quansah. Who's been the most surprising for you?
I agree with all the other lads. It has to be Quansah. And that play you're talking about, literally, I was just thinking about Van Dijk, because he literally tracking backwards. Gomez in no man's land over there. It was just like, for his age, when I saw him do that, I was like, okay, like you see the talent is there. I do trust the coaches, so he's going to be great, honestly. He could fight for a starting job next year. Hopefully he grows.
Do you think?
Why not?
I mean, the only way I'd see him going through purely is beside Virgil, and the only
on the left.
Do you think he'd be better on the left or on the right? I think he'd be better on the right beside him with Virgil there.
I think personally, I don't know if it's going to happen, but it'd be Quansah on the left, Van Dijk down the middle, and Konate on the right, and then Trent's going to invert, obviously, and they're able to cover space. So if he could track back like that already, Konate already does that, and his hamstrings are over there getting cooked. But I think he's capable of doing it. He could be a problem. Honestly, his future is... He surprised me so much. I might get a jersey, honestly. He's good.
I to be honest, I think he might be my next one.
Yeah,
I'm not going to lie.
He's a very good player.
He's a big, tall, physical presence, which is absolutely beautiful. We have a question for you as well, Menti. Any relation to Lamar Jackson?
No. Good player though, amazing player.
He's okay. He's a glorified running back, but that's my opinion on him. But yeah, no, I'm Quansah's probably one of the, between Quansah and Darwin Núñez they are the two people that I'm most excited to see over the next couple of years as Liverpool players, purely because I think Darwin Núñez could be the best striker in the world, and I think Quansah is quite literally the next Virgil van Dijk and could play as well as him if he continues on this. So, but we're going to get into our last topic for the last couple of minutes of this, and it's very quick news in relation to Mbappe, because Liverpool at the moment are financially prepping to make a bid for Mbappe, not a bid in January, but a contract bid next summer when he's out of contract, which we know Paul's opinions on him. Paul is on the stream many times and he's in the chat every time. We know Paul thinks he's an absolute diva and does not deserve to be anywhere near a Liverpool jersey. However, if there was ever a manager to knock that diva out of him, it is Jurgen Klopp. And we just asked Paul that you let us play devil's advocate for a moment, just to allow us to discuss Mbappe before coming in and calling him a diva and saying, get out my club. But I do agree with you. I think his attitude is a problem. However, I think if there was ever a manager to be able to work that out of him, it would be Jurgen Klopp. But Jesus, don't be Jim Hughes, don't be driving while watching YouTube, man. That's just nuts. Paul, I'll swap Jota for Mbappe. We'll send Jota to PSG and we'll take Mbappe straight up. They'll have to take that deal. It'll be perfect. The only interesting fact of it is that Real Madrid have come out and said that they will offer Mbappe one contract, and if they do not agree, if Mbappe's team doesn't agree to that contract, once bitten, twice shy, they'll just move on to other targets. They're not interested in a fire sale or a debate about it. They'll offer him a contract, and that's it. Either take it or leave it, which opens the door to other teams looking for his services. And Alexander mentions it'll all end like the Bellingham dross. I think we're not so much hooked on this as similarly to Bellingham, purely because we've been looking forward to Bellingham for 2 years, whereas this kind of came in the past 6 months. So I don't think we're all as invested in this. And I think we've all, as I mentioned, once bitten, twice shy. We're all assuming the worst, but hoping for the best. Tom, are you of a similar vein of thought that assuming that he's never going to come here, but Jesus, the channel will explode if he does?
Yeah, it's officially silly season, isn't it? When you see these sort of rumours come out. You think FSG are going to bring Mbappe to Anfield, and I don't know what world you're living in, to be honest. As much as I'd love to see it, I know he's got an attitude problem, but I think he more than makes up for it with his ability. He's the best player in the world. You don't turn down the best player in the world, no matter what the attitude or whatever's like. And like you said, Klopp would, I'm sure he'd take that out of him. So I'd take him with an absolute heartbeat, because he's, like I said, he's the best player in the world, and you don't turn that down. But there's not a chance that under this current ownership that we're going to be bringing in a player like that.
Yeah, Hassan, as Willem has mentioned many times in both the group chat and on stream, know your owners. Is there, as Paul mentions here, which I think is a very funny thing, is best case scenario, Mbappe goes to Madrid and we get Erling Haaland when Man City gets relegated. Yeah, but we already have a better striker in Darwin Núñez, in my opinion. So that's the way that I look at things. Hassan, are you of a similar train of thought to Tom, where once bitten, twice shy with the Bellingham news? It's officially silly season. It's Christmas time. It's December 1st. Happy Christmas to everybody who celebrates it. Okay, do you think this is even going to happen? Do you think this is even in the realm of possibility of happening? And could FSG shock the world?
It's highly unlikely, but it's a deal of a lifetime. If he comes to Liverpool, every team will look at us, and it will be amazing. And we'll only sign him even if he's interested. So we'll go into this deal. But if he's using us, maybe we'll not even look at him. But if there's a chance, I don't know why we should not go for him. He'll change. Look, as William said, know your owners and all. But with Caicedo, who knew will be like that? So maybe a game changer, once in a lifetime player. When comes, you throw all the things at him.
Are you scratching something there, Hassan? I think there's something scratching, or are you tapping anything? Because we could hear it there. I'm not sure if you were scratching anything there.
No. Maybe the wire is loose.
I think it could have been. I think it's okay now. It's working fine now. Menti, I'll throw the last question over to you. Paul thinks Salah's going to extend his contract. Is there any world in that we have both Salah and Mbappe for at least a season on this team? Or is it, as Willem loves to say, know your owners?
Honestly, knowing the owners, zero shot we get Mbappe. But honestly, the only way I can see that happening is if we sell Diaz to Barca. We somehow get like 70 million. We could afford him if it's salary, maybe for like 3 years. But if we're being honest, we can't be delusional fans. We're not getting Mbappe.
What if Nike pays some of the contract?
I don't think they will. FSG think from a business
I mean,
perspective, but I don't know.
Nike paying the contract. It's the biggest Nike footballer in Europe. They have LeBron James is the biggest basketball Nike athlete.
It's actually his best player, his favorite player. Is LeBron.
Yeah, so like they both love each other. LeBron loves Mbappe. Mbappe loves LeBron. LeBron has partial ownership of Liverpool. He's a brand ambassador. Mbappe in the LeBron kit with the Nike tick on it. That just sells. So from a commercial standpoint, it makes massive business sense for FSG to do it. And first and foremost, whatever we say about them, they are good business owners. So clearly they're looking at it from this way. If we get back, we will, and as Paul mentioned, we'll get Mbappe from petition Sheikh Jassim to buy LSC. I don't think he's going back in for any other team, to be perfectly honest, not in this current time frame. Maybe he'll go back in a year or two's time. But some Man United fans still think that he's going in for the United sale, even though Jim Radcliffe's deal is practically done at this point. But yeah, it's a very interesting time. As Tom has mentioned, silly season has arrived. It is December 1st, so buckle up. It's going to be a fun 2 months. I want to thank everybody for joining us, for coming up to our hour mark. I also want to thank Jen for being a member for 15 months. It's very much appreciated. Thank you so much, Jen. We love you so much as well. And for your $19.99, it is always super, super appreciated. Again, committing to the kitty for the Mbappe Fund for 2024. Thank you so much. And before we end, should I say, just make sure to like and subscribe and make sure that we hit the 10K mark. Thank you so much for anybody that has done so already. Make sure you have your bell notification on for all future videos and streams. And then also we will have our predicted 11 against Fulham out tomorrow, where Lou, one of the other hosts, is going to be predicting his 11. Paul, you can go fuck yourself. That's all I'm going to say now. I'm going to be talking trash for the rest of the weekend. Paul, you can kiss my ass. You're not even an Eagles fan, so that's all I'm going to say. I'll come back. You know what? I'll nearly screenshot this and I'll come back to it on Sunday evening after the stream. So you can hold that L when it's done. Anyways, enough talking about the other football, the egg ball. Our predicted 11 will be out at 12 o'clock tomorrow UK time. We will then have our live stream at 7:30 p.m. UK time tomorrow for our match preview. We will then have our game on Sunday at 2 p.m., a post-match stream at 4 p.m., and then we will have our 7:30 stream on Sunday night as well. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We very much appreciate it. Jen, as always, you're very much treasured with ourselves. From myself, from Tom, from Menti, from Hassan, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you again tomorrow.